everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I do all sorts of planner and stationery stuff here on the YouTubes, except bullet journal. Essentially, I used to bullet journal quite a lot, and then I have since moved into dated planners, specifically book-bound dated planners. And I did that for very specific reasons. There are a few things that the bullet journal method just didn't work for me with, and I needed a dated solution instead. So we're gonna talk a little bit today about why I quit bullet journaling in the first place, and a little bit about how I might be moving back to it now. So I'm gonna take you over to the flat lay, and we're gonna go through some old bullet journals of mine, some old planners of mine, and we're gonna talk about it. So this video assumes that you are familiar with the bullet journaling method. If you're not, I'm going to leave writer Carol's method video down below, and you can go check that out and watch that as additional reading to this video. And I'm also assuming that you're familiar with what bullet journaling has become in PlannerTube and on the internet. So bullet journaling in quick short form is a really basic, simple method that writer Carol invented to accommodate his unique brain in ways that other predated planners could not. So writer Carol has talked about having ADHD and how this planner system really works for brains like that. And he's also talked about how this is like a very simple thing that can be done in any notebook, and it's super customizable, so it can be whatever you want it to be. But the bullet journal phenomenon has created a place on the internet where artists, entrepreneurs, creatives, any other type of person who is not satisfied with a traditional offering of a traditional planner can go and can use this system to create art or have their productivity organized in the way that they want in a completely customized way. And it's very, very flexible for that. But what you'll see when you look up, bullet journal setup or whatever, you're gonna see a lot of those artistic, more embellished types of videos. You're gonna see like the Amanda Rachelles and the plant-based brides of the world. You're not often going to see the more text-based bullet journal setups, although those videos are out there. They definitely are out there. So there are some things about the basic bullet journal method that made me not want to continue it, basically. I have been using a bullet journal in some form since the method sort of hit the scene like half a decade ago or a decade ago, basically. This was just as the sort of like crazy artists of the world, the sort of artistic spreads was on the rise. This was back when we were all in moleskin planners using just like basic highlighters and pens, like way before Tombos became a popular thing, way before the sort of like heavy like dot grid art paper became a thing, back when we were all in graph paper notebooks, if you guys remember. So that is when I started bullet journaling, and along the way a few things hit me that made me realize like I cannot really be in this system anymore. So I was in a bullet journal on and off for like until basically 2020. I did do some other planners, and I've talked about the other planners that I did in like my undergrad and stuff in other videos, and those were dated planners that I just used for school, but for everything else I was in like a bullet journal. And this is what a bullet journal like typically looked like to me. It had a weekly view, and it had some sort of monthly tracking element. This year I was trying to do gratitude. I was trying to track my sleep and all that kind of stuff. And I was also intermittent fasting at that point. Some type of monthly view, habit tracker again down the side. And then also it had just like the space for me to dump my random thoughts. So this is like all work stuff that I'm doing here. These are some random goals that I have. This is like a random map that I did of Inside Out. If you're familiar with the story circle, it's a story mapping thing that was created by Dan Harmon, the guy who created Community. But anyways, so I was mapping out a movie according to his story circle, and this was just like I was just dumping my thoughts. So the bullet journal really affords the flexibility to have like your monthlies, trackers, weekly views, or daily views. I know a lot of people are daily planners. And then like just random scratch paper to do whatever you want or whatever you need to do in the system itself. Let me see if I can find my like a daily. I think by the time I was in this journal, I really wasn't doing dailies very often anymore. I was mostly doing weeklies. This is kind of what my dailies looked like before that. This is like a year or two before my 2020 bullet journal. And this is what my dailies looked like. I was just like crossing things off and scribbling things out, and everything was getting moved everywhere, which is sort of the idea behind bullet journaling, is that you cross things out and you move things and you switch things around, and things go in and out of your monthly log, in and out of your future log, in and out of your daily log, in and out of list collections that you make, things like that. So things were going everywhere, and basically once I had become sort of fed up with the fact that things were going everywhere and I couldn't figure out where like the true home for anything was, I ended up stopping bullet journaling. So I quit bullet journaling and I moved into a dated planner, which I moved into a Hobonichi Weeks. This is actually my Hobonichi Weeks for this year. And so that confusion was part of the reason I moved into a weekly planner, because I was just getting like overwhelmed with moving things and rewriting things, and the rewriting process, the migrating process really was not helping me think about my tasks in an organized way. It was just making me feel like I had so much stuff that was undone, that was completely not finished. And I needed to switch into a daily planner where I could say, if I knew something was coming up in June, maybe I knew it was coming up this week of June, I would just write it over here on a weekly view. And I had that flexibility. I didn't have to constantly be going back and checking an index and then checking a monthly log and then checking my week and then writing it down on the week. I could just flip to this page automatically and write it down because I was in a dated planner. I was in something that had the organizational system already built for me and already drawn for me. So the act of migrating tasks is a core piece of the bullet journal system, and that's something that I really found did not work for me. Now I have like tech solutions that I have built in to hold master to-do lists and to hold any of those like random thoughts that you get that are like, I should buy this book or I should learn Spanish. I house all of that in my digital to-do app. I use Things 3. I'm not going to show it in this video because I actually just did a video last week that goes into it. So link up in the cards for that video if you want to check that out and see how I use digital tools to accommodate my paper planning. But basically, I just needed something that did not involve constantly migrating and checking things off and everything like that. And that was a dated planner. That is what that became to me. Also, I was in grad school at the time. I played with the Hobonichi Cousin for my first year of grad school, and then I quickly moved into the weeks for my second year of grad school, and the weeks became my like bread and butter, my favorite thing ever. But the Hobonichi Cousin worked too. The important part was that it was dated and that I was not drawing my own weekly layouts. When I was in my bullet journals, all of my weeklies needed to be hand drawn out, and sometimes I find that really, really fun. But being in grad school, on top of having a full-time job, on top of having a relationship and friendships and a social life that I wanted to maintain, the extra like half hour to hour it took me to draw out my monthly and weekly spreads on a monthly basis just took up too much brain space. Additionally, I was finding that the content online was all about decoration, and that really frustrated me. This is actually a bullet journal like type of weekly spread that I created to mimic a vertical weekly when I was thinking about buying the Sterling Ink Common Planner, which has a vertical weekly. So it was just a test to see if I could do it again. But like, this is the kind of decorative spread that I was seeing bullet journalers online create, and it just became frustrating because my spreads didn't look like their spreads, and their kind of content was the only kind of content that I was seeing. I was not seeing more simple, more functional, more pen-only bullet journal spreads. But in the dated planner community, I was seeing a lot of that content. I was seeing pen-only or pen-first content in the dated planner community in a lot of different ways. Definitely the dated planner community has its own share of like deco-only or deco-first creations and creators, and those people make beautiful, beautiful stuff. But what I'm in it for is like the functionality in my planner. I am much less likely to add decoration first or at all when I'm done with a spread. And if I do add decoration, it's going to be like a mood sticker or something like that, rather than like an elaborate sort of like, you know, this thing that I was testing out had like quotes and colors and borders and elaborate stickers and stuff like that. So it was just easier for me to be in a dated planner because of those reasons. One other thing I liked about the dated planner community online was that we were taking layouts like the one in the Hobonichi Weeks or even the Hobonichi Cousin, and people were customizing them. So the fact that the layout was constrained to what was already pre-printed on the page, I think forced people to get a little bit more creative with how they used it. I don't know if anybody here is experienced with creative work, but often when you put boundaries on yourself for creative work, you become more creative. What you produce is stronger because you're not just looking at a blank page, you're looking at a blank page with certain lines that need to do a certain thing for you. And so you figure out and sort of Tetris in your brain how to make that work on the page. And it produces a solution that is often more actionable and often more fulfilling, I think, personally. So I was really experiencing that in the planner community. I was seeing people, you know, change this up to be like a vertical layout, for example, or they were changing it up, delineating lines here or both. Sometimes over here, I would see trackers at the top, to-do lists at the bottom, or I would see journaling on this side. It was really up to the practitioner of the journal. and I got a lot more out of seeing the functional layouts being laid out. Yes, a lot of them were pretty and decorative, but that sort of like shifting of functional priorities around on the page was super rewarding, and I just wasn't seeing that in the bullet journal community. It just became kind of, I don't want to say it became kind of stale, because I like religiously still to this day watch Plant-Based Bride and Amanda Rachel monthly setups. I love them and I think they make great content, but I think the community overall was duplicating and replicating what the top tier bullet journaler creators were creating, and people weren't thinking about their layouts in inventive new ways unless you were willing to really, really dig for people who maybe like weren't focusing so much on what they could do with markers. This is just no diss on bullet journalers or artists who use their bullet journal as a creative outlet. Just for me personally, it was really, really hard to find content that I resonated with that wasn't just like replicating an Amanda Rachel like monthly future log and weekly layout, for example. So I found it hard, but this community sort of absorbed me, and at the right time. Definitely the pre-printed planner world on YouTube has its own sort of like ups and downs and pros and cons, and you may be really turned off by some aspects of it and want to be in a bullet journal, for example. But that's just sort of like my experience, especially when I was in grad school a few years ago, and really felt like I needed something dated. So to recap, drawing out my own layouts became a slog. The creators that I was seeing were replicating their same sort of spreads and things that worked for them, and I really wasn't feeling any creativity in the way that I personally needed them to, so I moved on to other creators. And the last main reason that I switched out of a bullet journal into a printed planner is that rapid logging just really isn't my thing. I know a lot of people who use the Hobonichi Weeks is a particularly flexible planner for this, but I know a lot of people use like a dated planner for bullet journaling. Like they will bullet journal in their dated planner. It's just like the same process to them, except that it all happens to be already pre-drawn, which I think is admirable. But like the one function that I just don't really do and struggle doing is rapid logging and doing dailies. So like one of the key things in bullet journaling is doing dailies, and those are like you write, find a blank page, you write at the top of the page, the date, and then you just rapid log and you put everything in there from events to tasks that you want to get done to notes to thoughts to memories that you want to record, and each one has like a little key and a little bullet next to it. And people love doing that and find it really works for them, but for me it just doesn't. The longer that list goes, my brain can't just use the delineating bullets to say, oh, okay, this is a memory, this is a note that I have to record for later. My brain just cannot do that. It just looks like a longer and longer and longer to-do list for me, and I get really, really overwhelmed. So instead, having a smaller planner where I can just write a to-do list in this like tiny little space is so much more productive for me. And then events go somewhere else, and notes and thoughts go somewhere else. It's all separated out already in the process of putting it in my planner. I'm not just putting it in one line, and that was really, really difficult for me in terms of rapid logging, and one of the reasons why the bullet journal system itself was just not for me. I moved into a pre-printed planner, and I am really, really happy here. This is my ride or die. She is my everyday carry. She goes with me everywhere I go. She knows all my thoughts, my dreams, my hopes, my desires, my fears. I love this planner. I will sing the praises of the Hobonichi Weeks until the day that I die, but also I think everyone has a sort of dated planner like this that they just feel like they can rely on, and it is their queen, right? Because it ultimately has everything that I need. And if I did want to incorporate some bullet journal method type of stuff, there's a future log, there's a monthly log, there's a weekly log, and I can go and use the back for collections or dailies. Honestly, I still sometimes put collections in the back here, but I have other places where I reference them in a more flexible way, which mainly means digital. I use my digital to do app again for all of my collections and lists. But like the monthly log, it totally has space here to write on the side, a few different priorities or a monthly to-do list if you wanted to do that. The weekly has enough space for you to track and do habit trackers if you want to do that, or you can set all that up by yourself in the blank notebook that is attached, that is within the Hobonichi Weeks at the end. If you're using a planner that does not have all of this empty space or anything like that, you can still accomplish so much with just a dated layout in a planner. And I loved that. I loved having the security of knowing that the days were already in there, that I could just flip to that exact day if I knew something needed to be completed on that day or in that week. I could just flip to that exact week or that exact day, and I wouldn't have to migrate it back and forth back and forth at all. And that was amazing and still is amazing. That's the reason I'm still in this planner, because when I switched to bullet journaling, and I do try out bullet journaling every now and then again, like this one I was in like in 2021 at various times, and then also in 2022. Most of the time I'm in a bullet journal or a blank notebook like this to just test stuff out. Like this, I was just testing out my vertical weekly to see if I wanted to buy the Sterling Ink Common Planner, and I did, and I bought that planner. In my functional planning tips video, I'll leave it linked up in the cards, I do recommend using a blank notebook to just figure out what your functional style is and drawing out various layouts that you think you want to try. So you will have noticed that in my bullet journal from 2020 that I mentioned, I was doing a layout that looked almost identical to the Hobonichi weeks. It has the moon, it even has the moon phases down on the side. It has the moon phases. I drew the signs that they're associated with because that's what's important to me about the moon phases. But this is basically the same exact layout with like a memo page that I ended up adding a couple more columns to as the Hobonichi weeks. And I did this for a long time in this bullet journal because I wanted to know if the Hobonichi weeks was the right planner for me. And it is. So I tested out the things that I wanted to buy first before I actually bought them. It saved me, I think, a lot of money, and it saved me a lot of stress. And I was able to figure out that actually this is where I want to be, and this is where I can be, and it will be functional for me. So some of the things I love about a bullet journal is that it does enable you to draw your own layouts. You can be really, really flexible. If something is not working for you in a dated planner and you can't find a dated planner that has it be perfect for you, like for example, maybe this is just too small of a planner and it's not enough space, and you've looked for a bigger planner with the horizontal with memo, but none of them have exactly what you need. They don't have the weekends, like the weekends are stacked or something like that. You can always get a blank notebook and just try to draw it out yourself and see what works, and then either find a planner or just keep drawing it out yourself. It's totally up to you and totally flexible, and that's what I love about a blank notebook. One of the other things I loved about using a blank notebook was having this extra space back here to just like be random. So elsewhere in this notebook, I also have notes from class. I also have I've brainstormed like ideas for articles or books that I want to write or something. And it was just so freeing to have like a one place dumping ground where I could just be like, you know what I want to do is I want to map Joy's journey through the story circle from the movie Inside Out today. And that's what I want to do, and that's what this page is going to be. It's not related to any of the like productive stuff that I'm doing in my weekly. It's just what I want to do today, and I'm going to do it. So having one notebook to rule them all basically and have the space for everything is what I really, really liked about having a blank notebook. Plus I really liked having that all in line with one another, so I could have my weekly and then on the very next page I could have my thoughts about a movie, or I could have a journal entry, or I could have like a project plan or whatever. I liked having those all in a row, as opposed to like with the Hobonichi weeks, all the dated material is like front loaded and then the back is this memo page, and I just have a slightly harder time like flipping back and forth from the dated page to the undated page and like finding my next free page. It's just so much easier when I can just like flip one page and then I have a blank page right there. So that is something I miss about using a notebook, and that is sort of why I have come full circle and have started using this little mini pocket planner for my bullet journal. So another thing that I have observed in the community, especially in the dated planner community, is that most of us will have a supplementary bullet journal. And I think this is why. I think because the constraints of a dated planner, while super comforting and very reliable and very straightforward, it can get a bit constrictive at times. I think that's why a lot of people liked bullet journaling in the first place, is because it became sort of this thing where you could be as creative and as expressive and as full, like your full self as possible. But you just can't sometimes do that in a dated planner. You just have to live by the planner's constraints. And while I think that can make you definitely more creative as somebody who wants to try different functional things out in their planner, it doesn't always leave the brain space or the freedom to just do whatever you want. Whereas a blank notebook definitely does do that. So I picked up this little pocket notebook from Moleskine. It is a graph paper notebook. When I was in college, I loved graph paper. I still do love graph paper. I think the sort of like the dot grid notebook phenomenon came about, again, like I was saying, like when bullet journaling was really on the rise, because this is more like art friendly. It lets your colors and your letters and everything pop off the page more. So I totally understand why people prefer the dot grid, but not me. I'm a graph paper girly all the way down, and I have been for a while. I think that's what I really liked about the Hobonichi Weeks actually, is that it is graph paper. So I have noticed that a lot of people in the dated planner community, creators like Helen from Coffee Monsters Co. or Lindsay Scribbles or others, will have like a pocket bullet journal that they can just do whatever they want in, and there's no pressure because it's not dated. So there's no like feeling of like I'm wasting days or anything like that. So I also have one and this is where I really experiment with stuff. I actually started from the back of this planner. Like I don't have anything in the front. I started from the back because I don't know why, it just felt like less stress for some reason. Anyways, it's my own planner. I can do whatever the fuck I want. But back in the back, I just was creating layouts and seeing how I liked them. And these, you'll notice, get replicated in my Hobonichi Weeks very often. So for example, for this week, I'm trying to do like a log, a spirit log, and a health log. And I also have that in this particular week in my Hobonichi Weeks. So I'm going to be sort of mirroring them and playing around with it here. And then I can sort of update it here. Kind of what they would call pre-planning, I guess. If pre-planning had to be a thing, I'm pre-planning in here and then post-planning, regular planning in my Hobonichi Weeks. But anyways, the freedom of the bullet journal means that I can just flip the next page and create a thumbnail. This is actually my thumbnail draft for my planning with my like digital planning and analog planning and my full system. I wonder if it actually came out to be this way. Sometimes I change it in draft, but my point is I was planning for this upcoming week and then I was like, oh my God, I have an idea. I have to write it down right now. And I just flipped to the next available blank page and I could write it down. The other thing was, last night? 2 nights ago, I was waiting for a friend in a bar. And I just started drawing the bar. I just started drawing the environment and it was really fun. I never ever get the chance to do that in my Hobonichi Weeks simply because my brain does not think, oh yeah, you can flip to the back and start drawing. It thinks like, oh, there's a dated page there. You can't do anything with that. I don't know why. That is a habit that I would love to break, and definitely it's not everybody's mindset when it comes to the Hobonichi Weeks or a dated planner, but for whatever reason, I have just a much easier time doing that in a pocket planner. So I am experimenting a little bit with a pocket bullet journal, just seeing how much I can really fit in here and how it will work for me. I didn't want to buy like another big A5 size notebook to experiment in because I have plenty of those. Like first of all, I have this one and I could just experiment in there if I wanted to. But also like this sort of pocket size, it just feels more approachable to me now after having used like a small planner like the Weeks. It felt super, super approachable and super low key. And I would love to do something someday where I can bullet journal in this and get like maybe a whole quarter's worth of everything in here. So like journal entries, tarot readings, ugly thoughts that I don't want anyone else to see, memory keeping, planning, project planning. Like I would just love to keep everything in one book again. I think that is what I miss the most about a bullet journal system. And I'm kind of thinking like it would be really cool if it was this little like pocket notebook. So I don't know. So one of the things I do really, really miss from bullet journaling is that notebook feeling. It's your notebook and you're writing in it and you're exploring things and you're just doing whatever feels right at the moment. I think that's so beautiful about bullet journaling. And for now, I have this little weird space that I'm doing that in, but I think ultimately I really do prefer the pre-dated, dated planner, the pre-dated, dated planner. I prefer a dated planner because it's just so much easier to flip right to the day that I need and write down exactly what I need to do on that day, even if it is like months in advance. So, okay, that concludes my rant on why I quit bullet journaling and why I'm in a dated planner. If you guys also quit bullet journaling and moved from bullet journaling into a dated planner, tell me why down in the comments below. I'd love to know. Or if you are experimenting with bullet journaling again, or if you never left your OG bullet journal, your ride or die, please let me know down in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear if you guys are having the same or similar issues that I have with the bullet journaling method, how you've worked around them, and maybe how you found solutions either in a bullet journal or in a pre-dated planner. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys and love you so much. And thank you so much for being subscribed. If you're subscribed, I really, really, really appreciate you. It makes me so happy to just go down to the comments and hear your guys' thoughts and comment back and chat with you guys. So please do leave a comment. And I will check in on it and see how we're doing with the conversation, because I think this is an interesting topic and not a lot of people talk about like why we're doing certain things or what we're doing to accommodate our weird personal brain stuff. This outro is really long, but I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching, for being subscribed, and for being awesome. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.